Hey, good evening. This is Roger Maloney for Ufrontmedia, the Spotlight, and I have a great interview getting ready to happen. I just want to make sure all systems are go. Black Soul Experience, how you doing? For anybody, today is going to be an interesting day. I just want to make sure before we get started, I bring in my special guest, which is going to be Paula Madison, principal owner of the Africa Channel, for an amazing NBC Universal executive. Big shout out to Triple OG. How you doing, bro? Triple OG has one of the best radio stations around, Old School Chronicles. Please check him out. He's so amazing. So yes, today I'm going to invite a wonderful person that I've been looking up to for a long period of time. She did an amazing event with a CEO called Byron Allen for the Africa Channel. Her channel was a part of the Africa Channel's Upfront, and I definitely want you guys to learn more about her in efforts to what she's doing now. Just want to make sure that she has all the technical difficulties out. That's why we're starting a little early. All right, so hope all is well. Happy 4th of July weekend. Hope everybody stays safe. I know it's been very crazy, but this is going to be amazing. Paula Madison should be joining me any minute now. Okay, Paula, I tagged you in to. Oh, she said on there. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna keep trying to tag you in, Paula. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Paul, I sent you a request. I want to make sure you can see it so that you can jump on the live. To give you a little preview of who I'm being ready to interview, Miss Paula Williams Madison is the chairman and CEO of Madison Media Management, Los Angeles-based media consulting company. She also was the president and general manager of NBC4 Los Angeles as well. And we're going to talk to her about her amazing career. She has an amazing book, and definitely one of my role models that I definitely look up to. So this is going to be super amazing. All right. So she should be coming on live. Paula, I tagged you on Instagram. Hopefully you can join. Okay. You're seeing Paula. Here she is.
Sorry, it turns out, Roger, that I didn't have my camera enabled, so.
That's okay. That's okay. That's why we're here to help. So the behind the scenes of this was, Paula, is it okay if I call you Paula or Miss Madison?
No, please call me Paula.
So behind the scenes, Paula, as like a true professional, she said, "Hey, Roger, I just want to make something clear." I clicked on the link. I said, "Paula, I'm going to tag you in, and then you just come on my live so we can make this an amazing event." Thank you so much. I'm so excited to interview you. This is going to be so amazing.
Thank you for inviting me.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, and in terms of my first question is, what inspires you today? There's so much things going on in the world, Paula. How do you stay inspired in spite of all the news reports, things going on in our world? We just came out of a pandemic. What things keep you inspired and motivated?
You know, it's hard to not be inspired if you are of African descent. If you're a Black person who hails from the African diaspora, and you understand who we are as a people and how long we have not just survived, but we thrived. It's hard to not be inspired. It's going to sound a little strange, but I think if we focus on the fact that so many people came before us and went through so much in order for us to even be here today,
Wow.
then we kind of have a responsibility to make sure that the next generations have as much opportunity to survive and thrive as we do. It never has been easy. It's never been easy, but what we have is longevity. We were the first people on the planet. We were the first people on the planet. And for many years, we were the most numerous people on the planet. But we absolutely are the strongest people on the planet because we're still here in spite of all that has been done to us. We have done for ourselves, and we continue.
And we continue to like innovate and keep striving in spite of everything that's going on.
Well, look around the world. I mean, who are the arbiters of popular culture?
We are.
If you look at fashion, music, dance, science, athletics, beauty, name it, all around the world, people of other cultures and other races try to usurp, try to imitate,
Mm-hmm.
all the while not giving us credit.
Wow. Very true.
All the while not giving us credit. And the extent to which we innovate and the extent to which we create, this leads to a word that's a simple word with a lot of meaning, but the word is jealousy.
Mm.
So I look at it as, you know, one of the ways today that it's said out loud about the females in our of our people, it's black girl magic, right?
All day.
It's called, they call it black girl magic, but we called it black girl magic.
Right.
They black girl magic,
Right.
right? And for so long, in so many cultures around the world, we black girls, black females, black women, we were seen as being the least attractive,
Mm.
the least desirable, among the least intelligent, and over and over and over again, we proved that we are best in class in all those areas.
Very.
So all we have to do now is make sure that we don't allow ourselves and we don't allow our children to succumb to that myth. And I just use black girls because that's the phrase, but it absolutely applies to black boys, black males, black men. It absolutely applies to. We just have to fight as hard as we can the desire that many other people have to tear us down. That's all.
That's so true. I want you to take me to the beginning of your amazing career. Like growing up as a child, did you ever imagine that one day you'll become create your own channel, become head of diversity for NBC Universal, and doing all these amazing things in media? What was Paula Madison as a child like? What was that experience like?
So to answer your first question, I didn't imagine it only because I didn't know that they existed, right? I know that these fields existed, and when I first learned about the profession of journalism, I learned about it from, a sister who I went to college with, LaFleur Pessour. And LaFleur came from a long line of educators in North Carolina. So when she graduated from our college and she went off to Columbia Journalism School, she came back to campus one day and said to me in my senior year, you know, you should become a journalist. And I said, what's that? This was in New York. This was at Vassar College in New York.
Wow.
What's a journalist? I asked her. And if you think about it, how naive I must have been. But the reality was, as I said to her, when she said, oh, you know, it's reporters. It's like working for a newspaper or a TV station or a magazine. And I said, Black people have those jobs?
Wow.
Now, my question came from, I wasn't turning on the television and seeing Black people who looked like me sitting behind an anchor desk. I can recall when Melba Tolliver became the first Black female anchor in New York City.
Wow.
And she fascinated me. But I didn't know that there were print reporters who were Black. And when LaFleur told me that, sure, and that she thought I could take that on as a profession, I did a little research, and I ended up applying to and being admitted to the Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University.
Wow.
I went for a master's program. I didn't complete it, mostly because I didn't enjoy it.
Really?
No, I did not enjoy it. And I say that from the perspective of, at the time I was in the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
So, not that that was why I didn't enjoy it, but I had so many other things in front of me that I was interested in pursuing, that I was in a graduate program where I received full financial scholarships, awards, grants. And I remember at one point being in a classroom and the professor having us purchase three different national newspapers a day. And
wow.
we would read them just to see the different slant on the news. Okay, that made sense to me. But after about the 5th or 6th week, then it's like, this is boring.
I want to do something more exciting.
Well, because I can tell which is more liberal, which is more conservative. I mean, you can get that after maybe 2 or 3 readings. So then I wasn't sure what the point of the class was in graduate school. And there was another class where what do they call teaching assistant, which I'd never had before. The teaching assistant gathered about 40 of us around something which was called a VDT, a video display terminal. Long before we had, long before we had laptops. But it was called a VDT, and he gathered us around and he starts typing on the keyboard and explains to us that in the future, this is probably how most of us will be writing our news stories. And I thought to myself, this is really boring. There's so much more that I could be doing with my time.
Wow.
So mid-semester of the second semester, I decided I was going to leave.
Wow.
And I did. And it wasn't an easy decision to make, but by then I was married. I was pregnant, having morning sickness, and I had a full-time job. So I was like, oh, I got a husband, I got a job, a baby on the way, and I got graduate school. I'm really hating graduate school. I'll get back to that later.
Right.
And after my daughter was born, I got a job at the newspaper in Syracuse, and that was the beginning of my journalism career. So having said all of that, what I'll tell you is I did not have a notion of what my career was going to be like. But I did have a vision that I would be in a position where I would probably be working with people and sharing with people information. And that probably came more out of when I was in college, I majored in history and Africana studies and education. So I had an intention of doing something, but journalism, which I took to be a daily history account appealed to me, and so I then did go into journalism and stayed in journalism for many years.
Wow, wow. That's amazing because most people, you know, when I ask that question to them, they say, yeah, I always knew when I was like 3 years old what exactly I was going to do. Thank you for that honest answer. One thing I found out that's amazing about you is your journey to discover your ancestry, and then you wrote a whole book about it. Could you tell everybody about that journey for you and how the book came about, Finding Samuel?
Sure. This is the book was published 2014 or 2015 by HarperCollins. The book came about because we shot a documentary with the help of a Chinese Jamaican friend who I met. She was the producer and director of the documentary. And when I finished the documentary, I was very satisfied with it, but there were elements of it that didn't fulfill what I was hoping for, not because of any shortcomings,
Right.
but because I felt that the documentary presented my grandfather, who was Chinese, and my mother, who was half Chinese. I felt that it presented them as sort of tragic, one-dimensional characters when I never met my grandfather, but I certainly knew my mother, and they had real whole lives. And in order to make to fulfill, I thought a responsibility to say who they are and to tell people who they are. I said, well, the only way I can do that is to write a book.
Wow.
You know, there's a treatment, and a friend of mine, again, LaFleur Paysor, when the time came when I had the contract with HarperCollins, and we read the entire book aloud. Before it went to the publisher, and I was pretty then satisfied that I had captured them. I didn't know that I would be an author. I didn't know that I would be a television executive. No, because again, growing up in Harlem as I did, Black people were on TV with their hands cuffed behind their backs and their heads bowed. That's overwhelmingly how I saw Black people on TV when I was a child.
Wow.
So for me, I just knew to keep my pores open, and that's the phrase I use. Just stay open to the possibilities and see what's there.
Right.
Don't see you called it fascinating. I don't necessarily see it as fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I see it as the life that I live, the life that I have always lived, and the willingness to say, that seems really interesting. Why don't I do that? So that's how I've sort of worked my way through life.
Wow. And in the book, you actually were searching for like 300 of your family members. Is that correct?
Well, actually, I was searching for descendants of my grandfather in China, and it turned out that there were more than 300 of his direct descendants who lived between Hong Kong, 30 miles west of Hong Kong is the city of Shenzhen, and 150 miles west of there is the city of Guangzhou, which used to be called Canton. And so within that range, I have almost 400 relatives, direct descendants of my grandfather.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you discovered that, you probably were like, wow, this is amazing, because it started, I mean, during that time, everybody started doing Ancestry.com to like kindle and find their ancestors, and that's became a thing. And a lot of people have been doing documentaries and all that great stuff. So when I saw your book and when you found out your discovery, you were probably like, wow.
Sort of, but the reality, and I'm jumping ahead and answering questions that people may have in their minds. somebody asked me one day, well, you know, were you searching for the Black people in your family?
Right.
And I said, in fact, I started out searching for the Black people in my family. It was easier to find my family in China than it was to find my African ancestry. And because slavery gets in the way.
It does.
Because the records, the documents, the connections, the racism that was inflicted upon us largely kept us from being able to find any records, any people, any whatever. So what Alex Haley did, I find fascinating.
I found it fascinating too.
Right. What I was able to do was by researching on a free website run by the Mormon Church, FamilySearch.org. They have the largest database of birth certificates, veterans records, property records. That it's huge, because part of what the Mormon religion believes is you have to know your legacy in order to attain their heaven, whatever their heaven is. So part of what they do is they help people research and find and so forth. So I went on to FamilySearch.org and began searching. I found the birth certificates of my grandfather's 8 children born to him in 5 of them were fully Chinese, and 3 of them were mixed race, my mother being one of them. And I was able to find the birth certificates of the Chinese people who I later met, my aunts and uncles. And my grandfather took them to China as children, where they lived out the rest of their lives. 2 of them, the 2 youngest, are still alive. They're 88 and 90 years old. And when I showed up to meet them and I had the birth certificates, they were amazed. They're like, oh, where did you get those?
Wow.
And of course, this was all being translated because they speak Cantonese. They were speaking Cantonese and Hakka. And I explained, I got them from FamilySearch.org. So yes, the genealogy search is very active and is underway for certain. But I started out trying to find information about my father's father, who to this day, I don't know much about my African Jamaican grandfather. And I know back to the year 1006 BC about my Chinese grandfather's family, because it's all documented. I'm the 151st generation of my Chinese family. I have no idea about my African family, but I can say that my ancestry in Africa goes back to the Akan or Ashanti people of present-day Ghana.
Wow.
More than 90% of Jamaicans are of Akan or Ashanti descent. And the 2 most famous of us became known as Maroons. These people went to Jamaica and they were enslaved and taken to Jamaica, and they escaped. They killed some of the slave owners, slave traders, and the mountains, and they're called Maroons. They're called Maroons. It's a variation of a Spanish word, cimarrones, meaning the wild ones. And the 2 most who we would be familiar with are Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley.
Right. Which sparks Marcus Garvey's theory of, listen, hey, guys, we might as well just leave and go. And I always thought like that was Marcus Garvey's plan was ingenious in terms of the educational system, the uniforms he had everybody wearing. It was an ingenious plan that would have been amazing if more people jumped on board. That's just my thought, Paula.
Well, there were hundreds of thousands of people who jumped on board Marcus Garvey's movement, the UNIA, the United Negro Movement Association. But what happened, please understand that what happened is the moment Marcus Garvey said they don't want Black people in America, in the United States, then we will go back to where we came from. So he started something called the Black Star Line, which was a shipping line. And he was all the Black people who wanted to board these ships and sail to Africa, with the destination presumably at that point maybe being Liberia, right?
Right.
But as people started to send in their $1 and $5 and $10 to build these shipping lines, the United States government stepped in and charged him with mail fraud. You're never going to build these ships. You're stealing money from people. So
Right.
Marcus was arrested, imprisoned, and deported to England, right? So it isn't that people didn't believe. Lots of people believed. But as what frequently happens to us,
They take out the visionary first.
there you go.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. My next question is, knowing that you know all this rich information about your background and your history, how did that translate as you're moving into becoming like Vice President of Diversity for NBC Universal?
How did it translate? You mean how was I able to know all of that about us and go into corporate America?
Right. Because a lot of people
Well,
know a lot about the African Americans, but then when you translate that into like one of the largest media companies, how do you what was your strategy like from like rising up to the ranks of NBC Universal, and what were your thought patterns like? Did you feel like, oh, I'm gonna really use this platform to like bring other people up, like you've done? Like, what was your mindset during the years of working at NBC Universal?
Sure. So I guess my mindset, I would say, there and wherever I am, is to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
be certainly among the best.
Right.
So philosophically, I've gone through life believing that you have to be necessary.
Oh, you got to say that again, Paul. That's nice. I like that. Say that one more time. I
Well,
have my notepad to take notes during this interview. You said we have to be necessary.
you have to be necessary. If you're not necessary, that means you're not needed, right? How do you become needed? Well, you become needed by being among the best. You become needed by excellence, and not just excellence for excellence sake, but
Right.
and knowing how to apply those skills in order to achieve success. So for me, it has always been, wherever I am, wherever I work, I'm going to be among the best. Because,
Somebody said, Paula, that's a whole word. You have to be necessary. That is powerful.
well, the necessary part means that if I'm among the best, right, that whoever I am engaging with will find that he or she needs me.
Ooh,
How do, how does that translate into the work world? What translates to is, I'll give an example.
yeah.
Years ago, when I worked at NBC4 in New York, I was not running the news department. I eventually became the person running the news department, but there were other people who wanted the job and so forth. But there was a particular time where a catastrophe occurred,
Mm-hmm.
major catastrophic news story.
Mm-hmm.
I had made it a practice and a policy to live no more than 15 minutes from work, right? So when you're in news, that means a lot.
So you could get there first.
Because you get there first. So
Right.
I could get there before the guy who ran the news department. And sometimes when I got there, I would already start dispatching photographers and reporters and calling in people so that everything is working and done and up and running before the boss even got in. Now, how did that translate to the higher ups? It translated to the higher ups is that she actually got all this up and going so that we know we have backup. We know that we have, we're not going to be left in a lurch. What
Right.
I've believed is look for the weak spots in that organization and provide the strength to fix them.
Well, you have to say that one more time. That's powerful. Look for the weak spots.
Look for the weak spots in the organization.
Right.
And then fix them. And how do you do that? That comes about with analysis. You have to step in and you might deconstruct to figure out where the problem or problems lie. Right. I became known as a fixer. I became known as a problem solver. Dump something in my lap. You can't figure out how to make it work, how to calm it down, how to connect it. Well, let's call Paula in. So, and I don't want to tell you, but I do not want to say that I have all the answers.
Right.
What I have is the ability to network with enough people to bring people in. I always tried to hire people who knew how to do things I did not know how to do.
Right.
I always tried to hire people who were even smarter than I am. Because what that means is that once we come together as a working unit, we're unstoppable.
You're unstoppable.
Right. So my reputation was that I had people on my teams who could in no time leave my team and run their own team. Why? Because what we did was figure out where the weaknesses are and together figure out how to fix things. That's been my career path. It's always been my career path. And so how did I do this in terms of what did I want to do with in terms of people who look like me, with Black people?
Right.
I hired lots of Black people. I promoted lots of Black people. I supported lots of Black people. And unfortunately, sometimes I'd even have to let some Black people go because here's what it boils down to. I want everybody to do the best job in exchange for the best compensation, the best rewards, the best whatever. Making people feel that they are valued is important. But I also want people to know that together and as an organization, we can take things to much higher heights. Wow. So when I first got to New York, I left Houston where I was news director and went to New York to be news director. But when I first got to New York, I spent the first couple of weeks kind of listening. Mm-hmm. Not quietly necessarily, but I was listening. But this was my hometown that I was returning to. I was born and raised in Harlem.
Right.
My office is at 30 Rock.
Right.
I am in the largest newsroom in the largest city in the United States. I wasn't the boss. I was the number 2.
Right.
I walked into the Central Park jogger case was going on.
Oh, wow.
Bensonhurst, where the young African-American man was being chased, was being chased and ran from these white attackers into oncoming traffic, was hit by a car and killed. And what I noted was in those first months, maybe the first month and a half that I was there, the stories that were being told about these instances had the Central Park 5.
I remember, yeah.
They called them a pack of wolves.
Because somebody put out a news article, our former president, I remember that, in the New York Times, full page ad. It was insane.
He did not start, he's not the one who initiated that animalistic term.
Oh, wow.
No, he wasn't the first one. It was accepted vernacular. Again, pack of wolves, there was the word wilding. Mm-hmm. Heard before, but they were accused of wilding. roaming the streets at night, looking for presumably, you know, frail white women to attack and destroy. But phrases like that were used about these 5 young men, 4 of whom were African American and 1, I believe, was Puerto Rican,
Right.
all black and brown.
Right.
And then we had, happening out on in Queens, we had Howard Beach. And those teens who had chased down that young man that young black man until he was hit by a car and killed, they were called a gang of youths.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Right.
So I collected the scripts from a couple of newscasts. I asked that the anchors, the reporters, the writers stay for a debrief after the newscast. Now, I'm the black girl. I'm the black chick. It's like,
right.
Like, what are we doing? Like, why is she doing this? Like, what's up?
Right.
And I redacted the names of who had written these scripts. And I handed out packets of these scripts that had these stories. And people are like, you know, like, all right, what's this about? And I said, please read the scripts and notice, if you will, and tell me any significant differences between them. Well, what it came down to was a gang of youths versus a pack of wolves wilding, animalistic terms. So some people didn't see it right up front, but I said, no, because they were writing this. All news media in New York City, probably except for black media,
right,
media was referring to these young men this way. And what I said to them was, notice the terms regarding beasts used for black and brown, but a gang of youths, still human, being
right,
whites. And I said, and I want you to note that at no point are the white youths being referred to in animalistic terms, but the black and brown youths are consistently referred to in animalistic terms, and it stops here and now. They looked at me, I said, don't do it. Do not do it again.
wow.
I'm saying you can call the white youths animalistic terms. I'm saying don't do it, period.
Right.
And we're supposed to be unbiased. Tell
Right.
the story.
Right.
You don't get to use phrases like that. Many of the people were mortified that they had fallen into this pattern, right? Because remember, this was the era of Bernard Goetz.
I remember Bernard Goetz because he was the vigilante guy that he shot, and they labeled him as, they didn't call him an animal. They just labeled him as, it was like a Charles Bronson-ish type of character.
Oh, they created a whole movie trope around the guy on the train being attacked, right, black youth, and he shoots them, and everybody's happy. Remember, there was a point where Bernie Goetz was running for mayor of New York.
I remember that.
Right. So what I'm saying here is that,
wow,
unwittingly, perhaps unwittingly, even the journalists were falling into a racist trope. And I, coming in from wherever I came from, was coming from Houston. Many of them were like, who is this? You know, it's like, no. I came here from Houston, but I am a show enough New York City girl. I was born and raised in Harlem. I grew up riding the subways, so we ain't even playing that.
Right.
Ask how was it?
Their faces was like, this lady is off the chain.
At some point, you have to plant a flag. At some point, you got to make it known. Here's a line. Don't cross it. I can be helpful to you, or I can make your life hell. But what I knew was, I came here to be boss. I came here to run a news department in my hometown, and right, I am there to do that. And I ended up doing just that.
That's an amazing story. So now that you, and now that after you left NBC Universal, you became the principal founder of the Africa Channel. Now, where did the idea and the vision to create that platform, and then we'll get into the Byron Allen stuff afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's kind of sort of how it happened. What did happen was some other people created the Africa Channel, and my family was offered an opportunity to invest.
Got it.
My oldest brother, who was the CEO of our investment company, decided he was going to invest the amount that made us the majority owners. And at that point, we decided, well, it's our money. We probably should take this over. So we kind of did. My brother became the CEO. The initial plan was that I would be retiring or leaving NBC Universal and I'd go run it. I didn't leave when I had planned to leave because I decided that I was going to retire at the age of 58 in order to go find my grandfather's descendants in China. That was my plan. It happened when I guess I was around 56 or so. But what did occur was a radio personality by the name of Don Imus referred to the Rutgers women's basketball team
as
headed hose.
I remember that.
Right. He said that on the air. He had a radio program on CBS Radio,
National
television program on CNBC. So two different networks carried him. One carried a television show, that was CNBC, and the other one carried him as a radio program, that was CBS. He actually was employed by CBS, but NBC had a contract in order to turn his radio show into television, meaning that CNBC put a camera in his radio studio and turned that into television. That's how that came about. But what happened, I, with whatever this hair is, was out, as were many other people. But I happened to work at NBC, as a few hundred other Black folks, and it created quite an uproar.
I can imagine.
Black people were not happy. There were people who were other than Black people who were not happy, but it created a thing. And ultimately what happened was NBC canceled the contract with Don Imus. I was going to retire early. When Don Imus said what he said, I realized that it was maybe 2 weeks before that the CEO of NBC Universal asked me to become the chief diversity officer. At that point, I was president and general manager of the 3 TV stations we owned out here, the NBC stations and the Telemundo station. And ultimately, I was like, listen, I work on diversity. I lead the diversity, committee, but I don't want that to be my full-time job. When Don Imus said what he said, I was like, I'm gonna take that as a full-time job, because if I can be in this company this long, along with other people in this company this long, and that happens, then we haven't flexed enough.
Right.
So I stayed, and it wasn't a condition of my staying, but it certainly was in the conversation that I fully expect you all to release him from his contract.
Right.
And they did. So ultimately, we owned the Africa Channel. I did not leave. I didn't retire in order to go run it. My brother then stepped in doing, and he hired a general manager for the channel. But I stayed on at NBC Universal in order to make sure, as best I was able, that we had practices and policies and people coming in who were very clear about who and what they were and are, and were not going to sort of shy from, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm working here in the middle. It's like, no.
Right.
A strength a strength and a fortitude and a commitment. So I stayed at the point where Comcast bought NBC Universal,
Yeah.
GE. That's what I like. Listen, I'm not ready to learn a whole new group of white folks. I've just
Hold on a second. I gotta write that down. I'm not
well,
ready
but
to. I
like
love it. I love it. I love it.
I wasn't ready for that, and so I decided that I would go ahead and proceed with my plan to retire at the age of 58. I did that. My family owned the Los Angeles Sparks, a WNBA team.
Congratulations with that. I was getting ready to ask about that. Congratulations with that.
Well, okay, I was the CEO and I ran the team maybe for 4 years, and I sold it to Magic Johnson.
Nice.
Right. So I did that, and I absolutely enjoyed that a lot. But even now, the WNBA teams don't make money. So
Not definitely not like the NBA does. Not where nowhere close. They should.
no, saying they don't make money. NBA teams make money. The WNBA teams do not make money.
Now explain that to me, because I watched a couple of WNBA games, and you know Kobe, before he died, was really getting ready to do some amazing things with that, in terms of girls basketball and all that stuff.
Do you know how professional basketball teams make money?
Commercial sponsorships, right?
Advertising, sponsorships, ticket sales. We played at the oh God, I can't believe I just lost the name.
Garden.
The Arena, Los Angeles, huh?
Oh, I know you're talking about
I can't believe
the LA convention. No, the convention center.
not the convention center, but yeah, it's the LA Arena. I can't believe the name just went out of my head. Staples Center.
Staples Center, right?
So we played at Staples Center. I didn't own Staples Center, so I had to rent Staples Center, right? The same people who own the Lakers own a piece of Staples Center. They don't have to rent it.
Mm.
Most of the WNBA teams today are not owned by NBA teams. When the league first started, every WNBA team was owned by an NBA team.
Wow, okay.
Sold to private owners. Once that move happens, the franchise is now not, the costs are not amortized under the NBA.
Wow.
So they actually did polls to find out, for example, if you ask basketball fans to rank games that they would like to see in what leagues, first, of course, it's the NBA, then it's probably the NCAA, AAU. It's actually college ball before they get to women's basketball. So in spite of the fact that we played at Staples, we had the largest, highest attendance in all of the WNBA. I was still putting money in to cover the team's costs in the six figures. When I started, it was in the seven figures. I brought it to 6 figures. And these days, unless a team is owned by a franchise in town. So for example, the Washington team, the DC team, is owned by the same people who own baseball and football. So they wrap that up in a bundle. If you want to advertise baseball and football, you got to advertise my women's basketball team.
Right. And they do the bundle package just like cable back in the day. Got it.
If you're not lucky enough to be in that, you're not going to.
Wow. Okay. I learned something today. That's amazing. So are you still heavily involved in the Los Angeles Sparks team?
No, I sold it.
Okay, to Magic Johnson. That's right.
Right.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think there will be ever a time, based upon the examples parameters that you set, women's basketball will be on the same level as the NBA?
I don't think it will ever. I don't think it'll ever be on the same level because even when asked, women prefer NBA ball to WNBA ball. Okay, you know, so I don't think it'll ever be on the same level. If you ask me, do I think it could ever be profitable? I do think it can be profitable, but I think the business model would have to change mightily. So that when Magic Johnson, when I said I sold the team to Magic Johnson, Magic was part of an ownership, a franchise that included the Dodgers and the Lakers. But remember, Magic's ownership is a small percentage.
Right.
Right. So there are other people who have much larger percentages. It is they who would have to be committed and they who would have to say, oh, we have gotten the Sparks as a lost leader off our books.
Oh.
Sold it. Do we want to buy it back?
Wow.
Now, some, for the sake of the community and goodwill, there might be some people who would do that. But
wow.
as a business model, as a straight business model, it will never equal the NBA. No. Mm-mm.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And I see where the holes lie now. Next question I want to ask you is, well, I saw you on the Byron Allen Upfront, joined for Ad Age, and I saw the Africa channel came up, and I was like, I saw all the amazing programming. Let's talk about the movement that Byron Allen and all these amazing Black-owned media companies are now really forcing ads and brands to increase their ad budgets. Paula, explain the problem to everyone and what needs to be done.
Sure. Well, let's remember that we are in the United States of America.
I got it. All right. Okay. I got it.
Let's start with always, no matter what I say, let's remember we're in the United States of America, okay?
I got it.
$1 in the Black community is with us for about 10 seconds, goes right out into the white community, right?
Right.
We don't spend a lot with Black businesses because there are not a lot of Black businesses, but again, the products, the advertising, the whatever. So $1 in the Black community passes quickly through the Black community and goes very quickly to the white community. Okay, so let's remember that. Now, what Byron Allen, who I love, what Byron Allen was able to do was bring some business entities to their knees, because that brother's a billionaire. He got deep pockets.
Right.
So using the laws of the United States, he took people to court.
Right.
He took Comcast to court. He took Charter to court. Why? Because they would not carry his programming.
Right.
And I will tell you that when I was president and general manager of NBC4 here in Los Angeles, in the 2000s, Byron Allen came to see me.
Oh, wow.
And Byron asked me if I would consider carrying one of his programs, anyone. He had about 3 or 4 of them. There was a comedy show. There was, there was the touring of the beautiful houses. There was,
right.
And I said to him, well, contrary to what you might believe, even though I'm the president and general manager of the station, because I'm part of a network, I'm owned by the network, much of the content on our air is owned by our network. I don't have many spaces where I can bring independently owned programs onto Channel 4.
Got it.
But I said, we had a program called Showtime at the Apollo on Saturday night.
Right.
That after Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live owned by the network. Showtime at the Apollo, a franchise program, but came on, and that was one of the ones that, as the owned and operated stations, the NBC stations carried. And I had a half hour after Showtime at the Apollo that I could program.
Right.
I said to Byron, it's about 2:00 in the morning, but it has a lead in because people stayed up to watch SNL. and they stay up to watch Showtime at the Apollo. So there's an audience there. So he said, okay, let's do a 50-50 barter split. Now, if you do TV, the 50-50 barter split is that whatever commercials we get, in every 30 minutes of airtime, there's usually 8 minutes or so of commercials. So he was saying, you know, the 8 minutes of commercials, your team will sell and my team will sell, and that 8 minutes will split 50-50. And I was like, dude, get out of here. We're not doing that.
well, you can't hurt him for trying. He was, you know, Byron, he was trying to, you know.
I applauded him. I was like, brother, I get you. On the other hand, my station,
right.
He said no station in Los Angeles aired any of his programs. Zero, none. Byron Allen had none of his shows on in LA. And I said, we'll do 70-30. I get 70, get 30. He said, okay. I said, I have a goal. What's my goal? My goal was, in spite of the fact that we were the #2 market, New York is #1. I came from the #1 market where I was running the news department. I came to the #2 market where I was running the whole station. Okay. I had a goal of beating New York in profit, not in revenue, but in profit.
Right.
Right. As I said to you earlier, when we started out, I was like, you got to figure out where the weaknesses are.
Right.
And go for the. So my goal was to be, for the first time in the history of my company, the Los Angeles station beating the New York station, not in revenue, but in profit. That was my goal. Nobody put that goal on me, but I was like, if I'm gonna do it,
if you go for it, you might as well just go for it.
So I wasn't giving Byron 50-50. We got 70-30. My station was the most profitable. We beat New York for the first time. I got much applause and bonus because, oh my God.
Somebody put down the throne. The throne has been destroyed. I love it.
Let's call it Black Girl Magic. Remember, let's call it Black Girl Magic. Let's call it finding out where the weaknesses are. Let's call it figuring out how to do all that stuff. And what I'm saying to you is, when all that happened, at the end of the day, Byron Allen and I became very respectful towards each other. So when Byron came to me and asked me about signing the letter where he was challenging Comcast and Charter because he was putting ads in the newspapers, I said, sign me up. When he asked about advertising, we don't get much advertising, Black-owned businesses, right? And
Nope.
BET is no longer a Black-owned business. BET hasn't been a Black-owned business since Robert Johnson sold it to Viacom.
I was there, Paula, when he sold it. I used to work with BET.
Well, so now what Byron was saying is, they are bait and switch. They're saying, oh, no, we advertise for Black viewers on Black targeted programming.
Now explain Black targeted for that don't know what.
Right. BET is Black targeted. They got blackity black going on BET. It's Black this, Black that, but it ain't Black owned.
Right.
Right. The Weather Channel is not blackity black. It ain't Black here, Black there, and Black everywhere, but it is Black owned.
Right.
Right. By Byron.
Right.
My is the majority owner of the Africa Channel. All over the Africa Channel is Black. We don't get our share of advertising from the major advertisers nor the major advertising agencies. So what Byron did was, in the spirit of challenging all of that, he scheduled what's called an upfront. You know what an upfront is. It's you get the advertisers in, you show them what your content is, and they buy ads up front. They buy ads long before the program airs, they're buying ads up front. And because they buy up front, we give them a discount on what they spend because they are supporting up front, right?
Right.
That's not what happens with Black-owned media. We scrape and scrimp and try to get by and do whatever. So for all the years that my family's owned the Africa Channel, we've not taken any money out of it. We plow it right back in to the programming so that what we can do is keep it going and keep with this consistently wonderful programming that I hope that your viewers will, if they haven't sampled it yet, I hope they do.
Well,
But it's now.
I saw the event that Ad Age put on, and I saw the presentation that your channel, because you guys did an amazing promo reel. I saw that and I said, let me just reshare this so everybody else can know what the African was all about. And that's how we connected. And that's how this whole interview came to pass. Because when I saw that, I was like, Paula Madison is amazing because she's really doing what she needs to do to support Black media. Now, tell people how large the Africa Channel is. It covers, does it cover everything from Africa, or is it, because sometimes I know the politics with that could be crazy.
Oh, well, it's a lifestyle channel out of Africa. I mean, about Africa. What I'm saying is that most of what we see in this country about Africa is famine, war, you know.
Feed the children, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Animals. It's, National Geographic and stuff like that. There is a very vibrant world in the 54 nations of Africa. Africa is not just one place. It's 54 separate nations, and some of them have much stronger economies than others. But what we want to do with the Africa Channel is show. We have a newscast that comes daily. It's like Good Morning America or the Today Show. So there's a newscast that comes daily. 3 hours every morning out of Africa called Espresso. Then we have dramatic series. We have shows targeted to children on the weekends. We have, you name it, whatever you might see here, you will see, because these programs are produced in Africa for people of the African diaspora and people who are interested in Africa and people of the African diaspora. So some of the content, from films to dramatic series to comedies, are amazing. And then you have people like Cynthia Erivo, who we just saw as Aretha Franklin and Sojourner Truth, Yvonne Orji, who we saw as on Issa Rae's Insecure. A lot of these folks are Nigerian, right? Right. If you watch a lot of what's on OWN, like a lot of the actors who have African names, because a lot of them are from Africa. Some of them are from Africa by way of England or by way of France, but they're African. And so those are people too who you will see on the Africa Channel, because we frequently connect with them before they became known here.
Got it.
So they are very grateful and indebted, and they'll appear on shows that we have. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is, as I said, remember, you always have to remember in this conversation that we're in the United States of America.
Right. Let's bring it back full circle.
Got it. The United States benefit that Africa remain a downtrodden, third world, underdeveloped nation as depicted. Because who would we be and what would we be if we knew we could accomplish greatness, which we have and we do. We just don't get the shine for it.
Right.
Africa's goal is to propagate all of that and have people understand how mighty Africa and Africans are.
I got an opportunity to watch the channel. It's an amazing channel for everybody who really wants to see some innovative content, content that is from, like what Paula said, from news dramatic series, game shows, the whole gamut. It's a truly amazing feat, and congratulations to you on that. I think that was amazing. Now, did you now that were you approached by other I will say like the Comcasts of the world to say, hey, Paul, do you want to sell the Africa channel to us? Did you ever get those type of offers or those type of like conversations or that
Oh,
sort
I'm
of
going to the overlay of this is the United States of America.
right, 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 right. I just thought I asked. Got it. Got it.
They are just letting us wear braids on the air as professionals.
Right,
Do they
right,
want to buy an African themed, African targeted, African staffed?
right. Got it. I got it. I
Okay.
got it.
Okay.
I got it. I got it. My last question for you is, based upon everything that you've gone through or accomplished, what advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to create their own Black-owned media channels and carry on? There's some cool. You have the Roland Martins of the world. I think Roland Martin's new channel is amazing.
You
What
know,
Roland does is totally amazing. Byron Allen is amazing. Black Enterprises of the world, and so much more. What advice do you have? I'm gonna put myself in the mix because I love news to death. That's why I love doing interviews. What advice do you have for us, the next generation coming up behind you?
well, first of all, I got to say this because I love to say this. When Roland was in college, he was my intern in Houston.
Out of here, Roland Martin was your intern.
Yes, and I love to tell people that the 18, 19-year-old Roland Martin is the same as the 50-something-year-old Roland Martin today. That brother, if anybody thinks, oh, Roland blew up and so he's acting like, Roland has been the same Roland Martin from the time he was a teenager. I loved Roland then and I love Roland now. Roland takes no crap from nobody, and that's a brother who you don't want to challenge on the dance floor. I just want to say that. So I would say that to the next generation, I'll say this, which is very unlikely today, but years and years and years ago, my father told me that if I worked for a company long enough and retired and they gave me a gold watch, he would be ashamed. Now that's right now. And why would he be ashamed? Because my father said, buy your own gold watch. You don't give your life to some white man's company, so he gives you a gold watch. So my advice is, and it's completely a Jamaican
Booyaka, 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 booyaka.
that in Jamaica, the stereotype that many people have about Jamaicans is we have 50 jobs, because a lot of times we do, philosophically speaking, meaning that you can't rely on a check coming from a white man in the United States of America. There may come a day when you're no longer in vogue, where you're not needed anymore. And in the meantime, you went out and bought yourself the car, the house, the fur coat, the grill in front of your mouth, whatever it is. And the belief that you want to have multiple income streams. So how does that work? That means that at an early age, as I was taught, pool your money, as I was taught with my brothers, and we bought real estate. We grew up on welfare in Harlem.
Wow.
But we knew that in my family, it was a one-generation setback. It was because my parents immigrated to this country, didn't have the connections. My mother and father broke up, and we wouldn't go live with our father. So that's how all that came to be. But it was that we were expected to compete with everybody. And the pooling our money and buying real estate meant that in many ways, I could go take the subway to 30 Rock, where I was assistant news director, and come back to my block in Harlem, where we owned 3 brownstones that we bought, and we had people renting apartments from us.
Mm.
Well, income stream. So was I ever concerned that I might be fired? Well, I might be fired, but that didn't mean I was going to not have a roof over my head.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
what I'm getting here is this concept of multiple income streams would prevent you from getting a $50,000 bonus and going out and buying a $50,000 car. You know, getting a $50,000 bonus and taking a $45,000 vacation. Getting a $50,000 bonus and buying, you know, 10 $500,000 pair of sneakers because that's how you want to look.
Right. Right.
Take that money and you figure out how to invest it so that it will grow into whatever the next thing is. So what I will tell you is that at the point where I was president and general manager at NBC4 in Los Angeles, and I did decide, because of what Don Imus propelled me to do, I took the job of chief diversity officer. That was the point where I declared to NBC Universal my assets. There was never a requirement that I declare my assets unless or until I had a potential for a conflict of interest. Now, when I accepted an enterprise-wide job, chief diversity officer for the whole corporation, my family owns a basketball team. Oh, NBC covers basketball. NBC Universal has a TV network. Oh, my family owns a cable station. I better tell them all of these. So once I made the declarations, it became viral pretty quickly at a certain level in the company. The head of HR came to see me and asked, Paula, this list of things that you've have here as your assets? Yeah.
Right.
He said, well, it seems like, well, are you wealthy?
I'm sorry. What?
And I looked at him and said, I guess so.
That's a mic drop.
Asked, well, why do you work? And I replied, why do you work?
Right.
And he said, well, I have children who I have to put through college and I have to pay a mortgage. And I said, oh, I have a daughter. I've already paid for medical school and I don't have any mortgages.
Oh, that's what I was gonna play. Oh.
And he said, I work because I enjoy working, because I want to make a difference. Now understand what that meant. That meant that they just made the chief diversity officer of NBC Universal a wealthy Black woman. So you can't hold over my head taking my job away from me.
Right. 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 Because she was dangling that over your head like this.
Well, maybe somebody thought they, for years.
My wife just chimed in. She said, we want to be you when we grow up, and we going to get there for real, for real.
Well, let me just say this to you, that I told that story because they didn't know what I had, because there was no need for them to know what I had.
Right.
I had stuff, loose diamonds in safe deposit box, and I was wearing cubic zirconium as a tennis bracelet around my wrist. Why? Because I'm going into parts of the city and stuff where I'm not having nobody steal my stuff, and it matters.
Right, right. Because that's the Harlem part. Facts. You're right. Right. We're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
So what I'll say to you is, as I said to a gathering called Black Women on Wall Street, I said, if you are afraid to have your boss come to you and ask you, If you're afraid to go to your boss and ask your boss, how am I doing? You should not be spending $800 on red-soled shoes. If you're not prepared to hear someone say, well, you know, you need improvement, and be confident enough to improve, or if you're afraid to hear that you might be on the bubble, that your job might be in jeopardy, what are you doing dressing up like that? For whom? Because you get lovely, lovely, lovely shoes at DSW.
Right. I've been in there numerous times.
And if you ask how to get there, it isn't, you don't get to be wealthy by saving money solely, right? But
Right.
if you saved money or accumulated capital in order to invest, you ain't gonna get wealthy. And you don't get wealthy by hitting the lottery. That's not wealth.
Right.
So what should be done? In Jamaica, it's called susu. People pool their money, but with people who they trust. Make a real estate investment.
Right. Right.
2, make 3, sell it, share the profits, right? It's a mentality. And for many of us, because we've never owned anything,
Right.
as soon as we get money in our hands, we have to spend it.
Right.
But that is why we have so little multi-generational wealth.
To pass down. Correct.
On top of that, the truth is that for a lot of us who are first-time college graduates in our families, we usually have much greater debt than our white counterparts, because white folks don't necessarily feel the same kind of responsibility to fund everybody that black people do, right? Black college graduates get it from everybody. Oh, I need this, and can you buy me that, and can you stake me for this, and can you co-sign for that? And before you know it, right? So I'm not saying don't help your family out, but I have a girlfriend who said to me, my nephew came to me and said his car broke down and he needs to get a new car. She said, and I just don't know whether I should get him a new car. I said, all right, let me ask you a couple of questions. Does he work? She said, yes. I said, does he do shift work? She said, yeah. I said, buy him a monthly bus pass.
Right. Right. Right.
Because
Right.
you don't have the kind of wealth to go out and buy him a car. But you're
Right.
sitting guilty because he asked your auntie and you're supposed to help him get to and from work. Absolutely.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I asked about shift work because if it's time certain that it starts and time certain ends, the
Right.
bus is.
Good stuff. All of that is good stuff. And
So,
it's stuff, my parents
so all wrapped up in there
come
is
from
all of my.
Barbados, so
You Bajan?
yeah, my whole family. My mother, one time I lost $10 because I was going to the comic book store, and my mother was like, "Oh, you lost $10, so you got to figure out. So you got to figure out how you gonna make it back because you're not getting no more." And from that point on, after me crying in my room, I have to figure out how I'm gonna make this next $10. And so I was cutting grass, I was washing cars. I never forgot that lesson because I cried all the way on the bus because I knew I had to tell my mother I lost this $10 bill. But I bought comic books and she was like, now you got comic books, they're not worth nothing, but you lost $10. You played yourself, so I need you to sit in your room and figure out how you gonna pay me back my $10. And I was like, and from since then, I was changed forever. True.
Your mother's my girl. Right. But I share one last, hood, how to make a buck story.
Okay.
We grew up on in Harlem on the block, and we would see a little farther up in Washington Heights,
Right.
walking around with the icy carts, shave
Right.
ice.
Save that. Right.
So, so we talked my mother into buying us a block of ice, and we bought the syrup and the shaver, and we set up an icy stand outside the building. My brothers, I think we were probably 11, 8, and 6. And we sold ices all summer and made all kinds of money.
Wow.
And I only say that because our motivation was we needed to help our mother make money.
Right.
We didn't have money. So it wasn't going to be, oh, well, then let's just go out and play all day. We didn't have enough money, but what could we as kids do in order to make money? So we had an icy cart, shave ice. We had so many other little hustles as little kids that we would bring the money home and give it to our mother.
Wow. That's powerful. And all those lessons paid off, Paula.
Well, I think they did because right now, I'm a couple of months away from being 69 years old, and I retired, oh God, 11, 12 years ago.
Wow.
But I retired from working on somebody else's agenda. That's what I retired.
That's what you really retired from, correct?
I have 2 television series in the works. I consult. You know, I'm a busy person.
You really are. And tell everybody about you're turning your book into, you have a deal. That is it going to be a show or documentary?
No, it's my book is going to be a limited TV series. It's a dramatic series.
Oh, nice.
Legendary Studios, which is based in China, and Amazon TV, which of course is based here. We have a contract with them to turn it into a 6-part limited series. And then I have another deal going with 3 producing partners, turning the story of Vincent Chin, who in many ways would be likened to George Floyd of the Asian community. He was murdered in 1982 in Detroit by angry white auto workers. And we're turning that into a limited series for participant media.
Oh, wow.
So
It's amazing. They did a lot of great pieces of movies and content. They did Al Gore's film. Exactly, yeah. Paula, I just want to show you. I want to look at my notes. See, this is, while you were talking, I took everything you said down. See, this was not just an interview. This was college for me. So I took a lot of notes. I just want to say thank you so much. This was amazing for me. This was amazing.
I'm so happy to have met you, so happy that you reached out. Thank you for publicizing the Africa channel for us, because, you know, if Black people don't help Black people, there ain't a whole lot of people on the planet who's going to help us.
And Paula, whatever I could do for the Africa channel, I am here. I am available. And
Thank you.
No, I'm really serious about that. And whatever I could do to help promote the channel, I'm always here, and whatever I need to do. And I've been just tracking your career for years, but now with all these notes, Paula, listen, I'm good. I'm so good. My kids are in trouble because they're gonna get a handful of, like, all right, guys, family meeting is Friday night. We need to talk. Lesson number 1: you gotta find a weak spot, and let's figure out how we can conquer it.
Well, since you have children, I would love for you to consider what I've been trying to get going with the kids in my family, is have them understand the stock market. Right? These days, there are opportunities where you can buy a percentage of a stock, but let them invest in the things that they like and use, you know, the video games, right? The you know, if it's artificial intelligence, if it's the you know, books, if it's whatever it is, but have them follow what they are interested in, because so many people do not understand how it works. And importantly, when you're at the point where you do have money, if you don't understand how it works and you just hand it off to somebody. I said to my husband the other night, no, we weren't bothered by Bernard Madoff. And he said, no, we weren't. I said, because Bernie Madoff only took Jewish people's money.
Right. Right.
It was just for their culture. It was just for the tribe, right?
And they trusted him.
And those
He made
folks had no idea what was happening with their money. No idea. So I have every confidence that you will teach your children how to gain capital and be successful, but they also have to learn what happens to their money and their capital once they have it.
That's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the words of Miss Paula Madison. Paula, thank you so much. This was amazing. I'm gonna Paula, I'm gonna send you this whole interview so we can reshare it. And please, let's talk again, because I would love to do some more stuff for the Africa channel.
I would love to. I'll put you in touch with our general manager and let's see what's going.
All right. Going. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much again. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And give my regards to your wife who's in the background.
Oh my gosh, she's up tweeting. She's like, you just dropped the whole word on her, and now we got to go debrief the notes.
Take care, Roger.
Take care. Thank you. All right, bye.